right, I want to thank everybody else who's come out today to watch the executive debate. This is a really important part of our student union to make sure we have a true transparent process to see what the new candidates are thinking and how our federation is going to be run the next few years. So again, this debate is supposed to run from noon until approximately about 2 or slightly thereafter. Or I'm hearing actually now 2:30, pardon me. So anyways, so sit tight. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic day, and we're going to talk about a lot of very important student issues that are on all on their platforms. So live tweet, do whatever you need to do to make sure you get out the message, to get out and vote in the 2014 elections from February the 11th to the 13th. So first off, we're going to start off with the presidential candidates, and our VP Education, Adam Garcia, is going to explain the rules. Adam?
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so all of the executive candidates were provided with the format of this debate, so I just wanted to go over that for all of the viewers. What we will do is we have 6 topics for each set of elections, or for each set of candidates. 2 are directed at each candidate, and we have 5 minutes to spend on each topic. I'll use this group as an example. The executives will direct a question on the topic to a specific candidate, for example, Jesse. And first, Danielle will have a chance to respond. Then Mo will have a chance to respond, 30 seconds each. Then Jesse will actually get 30 seconds to respond to the question. What we will do is we will provide a yellow piece of paper to let you know that 10 seconds is left in your time. Then the candidates will have 3 minutes of open debate, with each of them being allowed 1 minute of airtime total. As soon as your 1 minute is over, we will cut you off. After all of that has finished, the candidate who actually the question was directed to will have 30 seconds to complete, to have final say on that topic. And then we will move to the next candidate. We have drawn numbers to determine the order of the candidates. And if there are no further questions, we will get started.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Are you guys ready?
Let's do this.
Let's do this. So the first question is to be directed to Mo on the topic of engagement. So Mo, in your platform, you discussed that many students do not know what FEDS does due to a lack of open and honest communication. The FEDS executive rely on students' counselor to actively promote the activities of the executive to students at large and gauge student opinion on the effectiveness of executive ideas. What will you do as president to ensure students' counselors are engaging in open and honest communication? So we'll start off first with Danielle, then Jesse, then Mo.
I'm answering the question. Okay. Hi, so to answer that question, I would like to say that we've talked about in Team Spark actually having the counselors interact with their societies, and so I think that would be a great way to actually get the conversation rolling within each faculty and really have them accountable to what they are saying and bringing to council and be aware of what they are actually talking about. Thank you.
Okay. So for Team Nova, we really wanted to focus on, again, bringing up that society collaboration. So that would involve the counselors and making sure we help bridge that initial connection, because a lot of times that first step can be the most difficult one. We'd also want to provide support and resources for the counselors. So this last term, we ran like a council event that went really well. So we want to help the counselors do more things like that.
All right, so David, quoting you from last year, you said that FEDS is on the brink of irrelevancy. So basically, FEDS is irrelevant to students now. And I find the reason for that is that students don't know what FEDS does, don't know how they do it, don't know anything about FEDS, and don't care, as a matter of fact. So what I want to do is, I actually want the counselors to be elected by the societies. Yeah.
This is now the open period for open debate. You each have 1 minute total.
Is it to add or to like?
To respond to one another and just to debate.
So would electing them from the societies put any stress on the societies from what they already have to do, like to actually do a whole extra election to try and get students involved through the societies when that's kind of some of their mandates already?
Yeah, it actually does put a lot of pressure on the societies, and I do understand that point. But it was initially brought up by David Birnbaum, the president of the Engineering Society, and he told us that they would like to see the elections being held by societies, because if if counselors are representing their faculties, then the faculties should control who gets elected. So it does put stress, but in the long term, I think it's more beneficial for students, and it makes feds more relevant to the faculties.
Go ahead.
Okay. So when you're talking about feds being irrelevant and students don't really know what it does, do you think giving the sole custody of elections to elect their counselors to the societies will further that disconnect, or?
No, not really, but we were talking about counselors, so I thought just counselors, since they represent the faculties, should be appointed by the faculty themselves, because I don't know any person who was approached by a counselor. Not like they do great work, but I feel like they should really involve themselves in faculties, and what better to do that than getting them elected by the societies?
I think I'm more inclined to say make it an option to the societies. So I don't think I would want to force the societies into running the elections because I don't think all of them necessarily want to. But I think finding a system where if they're interested and they feel they're ready or able to run them would be a little bit more effective because it's not requiring the onus on them. It's if they want to take on that responsibility because they think they can do it better, they have that option.
Can I ask a question to Jesse's comment? Okay. So don't you think that would be a little decentralized in that like we already have sort of rivals between the faculties to start like this differentiation of, oh, I elect my own counselors or feds elects my counselors, we're not really sure?
I don't think it will. I think it's the council elections, and it's not that feds won't help support them and won't help with the
30
branding of
seconds
it.
left of open debate.
It will just give the societies that option to further engage with their students, and they already have a really high engagement with their students, more so than feds does. So I think it will lead to more engaged counselors, more involved counselors, and more aware counselors.
Closing statement? Or?
So each of you you get a closing statement of 30 seconds.
Okay, so to close off my statement, basically I do agree with Jesse. It should be an option for societies. Societies already involve their faculties much more than feds does. So I guess giving that option to societies and talking with societies and using our VP internal to do that would really benefit the societies and students as a whole.
Thank you very much, candidates. We're going to move on to question number 2 for Jesse. Jesse, in your platform, you state that you wish the students to vote on new student space by February 2015. One aspect of space on campus that you have not discussed is athletic space and appropriate funding for existing athletics facilities. What will you do to ensure that students have the appropriate space for health and wellness and that student athletes have appropriate space to excel in their sports? So the order of this will be Daniela, Mo, Jesse.
So because school spirit is a very key role in our platform as Team Spark, we definitely think this topic is very close to heart, and we've discussed with athletics, with the varsity teams on ways to improve the collaboration between athletics and feds, and I think that would go hand in hand with providing more space that athletes feel like they're welcome in student space. So also encouraging students to use the space in athletics if they're not aware that it exists or that it's available to them, things like that. And I think just all of this together would increase schools. Thank you.
All right, so student space in general is very limited right now, but I think the athletic space is not a top priority. It is a priority, but I feel like student space such as study space and socializing space is more important at this time than athletic space. I do feel the pain of students, like CIF is always overpacked, PAC is always overpacked, maybe renovation for PAC at least, but yeah.
I think it comes down to focusing on multi-purpose space and making sure when we're introducing new space, it can be used for a lot of different things. And so when we're designing that space, we need to make sure that we are meeting with athletics to find out what their unique needs are and finding ways to accommodate that in the general use space. So that way we can still be meeting study space, social space crunches, but also be helping beef up the athletic space.
Okay, so I remember about a year ago we were arguing about the same point about voting on student space where 1,500 students voted on this. So I mean, we kind of already have some results, and I know you want to engage them again, and you want to vote on student space and that sort of issue. But how do you plan on doing this, and how do you plan on getting even more students to vote on this issue?
I think we did a lot of consultations and we got a good turnout from that, but we never actually, we haven't made enough progress on the project to bring back a decision chance to students. So it's just, the university is keen to get more student space on this campus, and I think if we work very closely, actively with them, we can definitely figure something out before February that students can vote on, deciding whether or not they want to get that space or not.
So my concern is that, yes, we've consulted students, and yes, they've said, I want more space. My issue is that if you say, I want more money, people are always going to say, yes, I want more money. So I want to know how you're going to advocate to the university to make something like a student building or this student space happen. Because as of right now, I know that they're working actually actively to increase the general space on campus to actually become more of a collaborative student space.
Talking with Chris Reed, he is very keen to get more student space. Faradin's a really huge fan of it because he thinks it looks really good on the university. And I think it's just, we need to show that there's a student appetite to get this to happen. And if we successfully show that appetite, the university will invest in it, they will support it, as long as we show students really want it.
So what further initiatives other than student consultation are you going to do to make this possible? It's showing what the results of the consultation were, and then it's pushing the university to get to action. If we need to go back to students with a round 2, then we will. If we can make progress before that point, then we'll make progress and show the progress we've made and show that it's, coming together. Was that all 3 minutes?
No, it's just me.
So I think I still have a minute.
Oh, we can keep talking.
Should I crack a joke or no? Okay, so maybe you could refer to this in your closing statement, but what do you think is most important? Is it student space, is it study space, athletic space, or social space? What do you think is the most important right now, and what do you think we fall behind most on average between all of these?
Do I still have time? Okay. So I just am concerned that you are still actively a part of FEDS, and this study was done quite a long time ago, so I was just concerned that maybe this isn't as keen from the university administration if nothing has gone forward since then.
Done. Thank you. Jesse, closing statements, 30 seconds.
I do firmly believe that the university is still keen on this. In the space committee, it's a topic that's come up several times. It's just as an individual student sitting on the committee, it's hard to show the weight of the student voice. As for social and study space, I think it's multi-purpose space. We're at a crunch for all types of space on this campus, so we need to focus on multi-purpose space. And across the board, it's been shown by studies that Waterloo is behind most other universities in study space, or social space, student space. Yeah.
Thank you guys for answering that question on athletic space. Moving on to Danielle. Danielle, you discuss orientation extensively in your platform. Currently, a portion of the orientation fee that all first-term undergraduate students are assessed goes to cover the events of the Student Success Office during orientation week. Since students currently pay for the SSO through the Student Services fee, do you believe that FED should cease to provide funding for the orientation fee for orientation events, for SSO orientation events during orientation week? I will repeat that question.
Thank you.
I'll repeat the last part. Since students currently pay for the SSO through the Student Services fee, do you believe that FED should cease to provide funding from the orientation fee for SSO events in orientation week? The order will be Mo, Jesse, Danielle.
Sorry, can I ask a clarification before we all start?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we're saying because we collect fees from students towards orientation, but some of it goes to SSO, we're saying should we not do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so SSO does provide services, not just to orientation, but students who already pay for SSO have not been enrolled in university. So yes, there should be a fee included in orientation if SSO is going to host an event, because the students who are already in university paying for the SSO services should not be paying for orientation events as well.
I would say that it's fine for there to be a certain amount of transfer because the general fee is to go to the general services that that department offers. Whereas the part relating to orientation is specifically for the programming they do in orientation. And I don't think it's fair to necessarily spread the brunt of that cost to every student across campus.
So I think this is the fee together with SSO and orientation is a good way to have it centralized, and I know the SSO does participate in the orientation meetings in the planning process and the approval process, and I think it would still be fair to have that streamlined process of bringing those fees in. The SSO still puts on valuable events for students, and I think it's fine to have it included.
So I guess just to add to it, I think getting a group, one thing we really want to do is get a student group to kind of be in charge of the long-term direction of orientation. And I think if that group existed, this would be a fantastic question to have that group discuss. So that way it's a broader set of opinions about whether or not we want to continue having a strong presence of the SSO in orientation or not. So I think having that student oversight for the strategic direction of orientation would be really valuable for something like this.
So can we like ask general questions about orientation disregarding SSO?
This is open debate time. You can do and talk to each other about whatever you feel like within the topic.
Okay, so Danielle, I just had a question about part of your platform. You said you would like to include the Graduate Student Association in orientation. Do you mean you want to mix fresh high school graduates with graduate students in orientation? And just a clarification on that platform point.
So I wasn't thinking of that point in relation to like the faculty events and like bringing them on to Junkyard Wars, for example. It was more actually geared towards Welcome Week. I met with GSA, their president, and they voiced concern that they had students approach their student association saying, we tried to get into this fun-looking event and we couldn't. So it was just sort of bringing in the concerns of different parties and saying, well, if you guys would like to pay towards sort of a central event at night, and there was, for Welcome Week, again, there was like that process of security and things like that, there wouldn't be issues, then we would look into that. So that was my direction at that point. I have no more. I have no more points.
Nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, I think orientation is important that it stays student-driven, and that's why I'm really keen to make sure that the strategic direction of orientation is done by students rather than left to the university administrators.
So do you think you want to cancel like Becky planning, or do you just say you want to involve more students in it?
I would like to involve more students so that they're at the table when those discussions are happening.
But aren't students already involved in everything else outside Becky? So what's...
It's the difference between the one-year planning that the Federation Orientation Committee does and that multi-year, where are we heading in 5 years from now, 3 years from now?
So that's not really involving more students. That's just continuing the same but having a long-term goal?
Different students getting involved at that level versus the one-year planning.
My only concern with the strategic planning overall is that orientation, 10 seconds, is quite, like it turns over quite quickly. And I think that, stressed me, David. Flashing seconds.
Sorry, time's up. That was a mistake. 30 seconds for the closing response.
Oh, that's me. Okay, so I think that orientation has a great group of people that work so hard to plan for that year, and I think there is quite a disconnect between what the SSO is providing and what orientation committee is providing. So I think if we identify the credentials between these two parties and work towards more of an academic versus central orientation plan, that would be something that I would support as president.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's move on. Jesse, this question's for you on the subject of accountability. Jesse, a key platform for all members of your team is to provide regular, easily accessible updates on your election promises. However, you are a math counselor, and Students' Council did not receive reports from math counselors for the January or February meetings. If you are not able to report your duties as a counselor while busy with campaign preparation and execution, how will you be able to effectively report on your election promises when busy as an executive? The order for this is Mo, Danielle, Jesse.
So can I just clarify something before we start?
Yeah, man.
This is a directed question as Jesse. I've never been a counselor, so how do you want to? Okay.
Your choice.
So I think we need more accountability on counselors because counselors have a very heavy duty towards their faculty and students in their faculty. If they do not consult students in their faculties and have talks all the time, and then report that back to council meetings, then they're doing something wrong and they're defeating the purpose of having counselors, especially tailored to faculties. So I feel like counselors should be more tailored to their faculties.
So I think it goes back to the first question that we had. So the flaws in how counselor members aren't really sure where their place is within the faculty, where their place is within the society, where are they pulling this information from. So as far as the counselor reports, that would be some direction to take as far as improving that process. As far as updates from feds, I think that it'd be hard to engage students to follow these updates.
So that's a good question. So I think council reports, they're meant to be a team effort. So it is a failing on all of the math counselors collectively. And I mean, throughout the year, Elizabeth and I have been strongly the people who have been writing the reports. We've been trying to change the reports to be more focused on things that council cares about, so consultation efforts and things like that. And through the beginning of January, students are more concerned about getting back into classes and not as much interested in talking about those kind of student issues.
Now it's open. So I think this comes up in an issue for all students with group projects that one person takes the lead and does that make it right? Do they actually have a fair representation of what the entire group wants? So I would argue as how are you going to empower the rest of the math counselors to be active and want to make these reports? And if they aren't concerned in January, what's something we could do to actually push them to be concerned?
So I think we tried very hard to make sure that every counselor kind of had a role in preparing the report. And I mean, for the most of the year, that worked effectively. It just, in January, after the Christmas break, everyone wasn't as well organized as a team. As for keeping students engaged in January, I think what we really needed was the support from feds to kind of get those engaging events going, not just by ourselves.
Just a follow-up. Do you want to
Go
continue
ahead,
that?
go ahead.
Okay.
It's okay.
Just a follow-up since we're talking about accountability. So I have a question directed to both of you actually. One of the most important roles for all executives is sitting on the board of directors. Do you guys believe that executives should be sitting on the board of directors, and why is that important to executives?
Interesting turn of events.
So I'll answer because I know what I feel about this. I don't think executives should sit on board. I think they should report to board and they should attend every board meeting. But at the end of the day, I think the board really needs to be that body that can closely watch what the executive are doing and kind of hold us accountable, hold the executive accountable. And I think having them at every meeting, reporting at every meeting, being in attendance, but not actually being members so board can kick them out when they want to talk about them without any procedural issues would be fantastic.
In relation to that question, as of right now, I think that they are the best people to answer the questions that come up in board and to present the information that comes up in board. So whether we want to move towards them not having a voting right in board, we could consult the rest of board, maybe council, things like that, just to make sure what the consensus is. Personally, I would rather them on board. I think the conversations really thrive with them there.
Thank you, Danielle and Jesse.
Just to clarify, I don't want to get rid of them. I just don't want them to have a vote, since I still have 10 seconds.
But
There's still time.
Isn't that like the CEO sitting in his office and just filling out paperwork?
I think being at the meeting is very different than sitting in your office filling out paperwork. You just don't get a vote.
But aren't you supposed to lead the vision and direction of feds?
You can do that without voting.
I think it's important for you to vote if you want to lead the vision.
Do I have any time
You
left?
have time.
I'm good.
Sorry? Wow, that's a lot of time. I think I'm good. Sorry for like striving towards a different topic.
Oh, debate has closed, and that's what the session is for. Jesse, 30 seconds. Thank you.
So I think at the end of the day, feds can do a lot to support its counselors do their job better. And I think when it comes to governance, there's a lot of different ideas. And at the end of the day, we can have the exec be a part of the discussions and really lead the discussions, but still have the decisions be a separate group. And that's really common when you look at a lot of other structures throughout the industry.
Thank you very much. We'll be moving on now to a question about ethical policies with Danielle. So Danielle, in your platform, you discussed that you would like to improve the ethical policies of feds. Although feds already has ethical purchasing policies and environmental sustainability ranks as a top priority in student surveys, when it comes to the execution of this topic, there is often a lack of a concrete plan. Your platform, similarly, lacks a concrete plan to implement ethical policies and practices across feds. How do you intend to do so? So the order of this will be Jesse, Mo, Danielle.
So how Team Nova really wants to address this is kind of starting with the commercial services. So we really want to do that full review of every commercial service. We know over the last few years, as part of cost savings, and it was an appropriate move at the time, we've cut back on some of like the biodegradable products and stuff like that. But now that our businesses are starting to be in a better place, I think we can start asking the question again of whether or not we can move to those more environmentally and sustainable products.
I don't really have a concrete plan to how to do that, but I really feel that feds is accountable for a lot of things they do, especially towards their environment, towards their community outside the university, and towards their students. So I feel like we really need to look into that. Perhaps I would like to look into a research board or a committee.
So including this in my platform really came from this idea I got from one of the members of St. Paul's Greenhouse, and it was based on ethical investments, and I heard his pitch. I was completely sold. He said that a lot of other student unions and other universities have adopted this within their policy to actually have an ethical investment policy. So that's where this platform came from. Thank you.
It's now open debate. I remind the candidates to move the microphones closer to their faces. Just people can't really hear you.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm just going to add to that since I have more time now. When I was looking through the policies and I saw 3 points, and they were mainly about contracts and if we support what the company we are hiring does, and it was mostly from my point of view around apparel, and I felt like that lacked depth a little bit across the board. And I know with the new approach to the sustainability committee, I think that there is definitely that drive for including sustainability within our ethical policy. So I'd like to see that direction continue, and I'd also like what I mentioned in the first 30 seconds.
I'll add to my own points as well. I think doing a business review will really help us highlight, and I think we can involve services like Sustainability Initiative because they understand the issue far better than I personally do, and I think really involving them throughout that process, they can help highlight areas that we can make quick, easy improvements for, but they can also help us shape what our long-term goals are around ethical purchasing and ethical policies. So I think working together, collaborating more with groups like that, can really help move feds in a direction of stronger ethical policies.
I still have time, right? So I think this also came up in the services debate where Sai said, how can we be more relevant as a service? And I think that this is just, all these conversations are proving that this is an issue and that this needs to be addressed.
I don't have much to add. I don't have much to add to that.
Is that all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Closing statement, Danielle, pardon me.
Right, correct. So I think based on the lack of use of our time there, I think I really hashed out my points. I really think that something like this idea from St. Paul's and using St. Paul's as an incubator and bringing it into feds, and also bringing sustainability, ethical policy, all of these things to light and having them a representation of feds would really incorporate a lot of concerns on campus. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our final question for Mo. And just as a reminder to candidates, especially in the open debate, this is your opportunity to tell students exactly what you're thinking. So use that time. It's valuable. Okay, Mo, in your platform, you discussed the idea of your VP Operations and Finance and VP Internal candidates regarding the website and an events app. You state that you will personally oversee the efforts to ensure that they run smoothly and result in success. However, the role of the president is not to manage their fellow executive. Please explain what your involvement in other executives' portfolios will be and how you will ensure that you do not intrude on their projects.
Could you repeat that one more time?
No worries.
Thank you.
So let's start from the beginning. Mo, in your platform, you discussed the ideas of your VP Operations and Finance and VP Internal candidates regarding the website and events apps. You state that you will personally oversee their efforts to ensure that they run smoothly and result in success. However, the role of the president is not to manage their fellow executive. Please explain what your involvement in other executives' projects will be and how you will ensure that you will not intrude on their portfolios. So this question will start off with Jesse, then Danielle, then Mo.
So I really see the role of the president as kind of being the person who supports and then also fills in the gaps. So, I mean, it's working as a team on the projects if they want your support, and using, like, you are a team, so using each person's individual unique skills and background knowledge to make sure that whoever is most knowledgeable about a project is the one that's kind of helping lead and help guide it, or it's transferring knowledge, or it's providing support so that they can focus on their initiatives that they're keen on while you kind of help out on the ones that they aren't as knowledgeable about or as interested in.
I think the question kind of speaks for itself in that I know for Team Spark, Ben for VP Operations and Finance and Maz for VP Internal have very strong feelings about this question and have a direction that they want to take it in. And yes, I would like to be a resource to them and provide that, well, what if this, what if that, students think this type thing. But I think it's under their portfolio to take care of this issue. Thank you.
So I feel like I need to not correct that, but rather, yeah. So basically, I did not mean like oversee like watch over them, but more like collaboration. So I think the biggest resources that a president has, or not resources, but his strength is only in the executives that he has around them. So I meant more of working together with VP Internal and OF rather than overseeing them.
Open debate period has started.
So this is our last open debate period, correct?
Last one.
Okay.
I wish there were bigger cups of water.
I think, like, so basically, I think at the end of the day, the executive are a team, and it's whoever gets elected, like, it's about working together to collaborate to make sure that at the end of the day, we're serving students. It's not necessarily whose project is who, it's who can get it done the most effectively and who can give the most results back to students. If a project is started by the VPOF, but at the end of the day is better transferred to the president, my hope is that as a team, everyone will see that and it'll be transferred appropriately. Just like if I start a project and it's better to hand it off to the VP Internal, that's what I'm going to do because we want to get results for students above everything else.
I'm going to throw a left curve here. So, Jesse, to address your platform, my concern is that your ideas sort of have this fun and games feel to them, and I think with feds lacking relevancy and an impact on campus, I'm just concerned that how do you expect students to buy into free pizza on campus or a jukebox if they want to have their real issues addressed? Thank you.
I think focusing only on high-level, broad, up-in-the-clouds topics is unengaging to students in itself. What we've tried to do is really make sure that what we're talking about is things that students can see the results of immediately so they can know what Feds is doing. We have points that address the high-level and key issues, but we also have points that talk to things that students will use day in and day out.
And Mo, if I have time left, how are you going to put metrics to sort of your platform? Because a lot of your ideas were like overhead ideas, but what action items or action plans are you going to put forth if you're elected?
So sorry, just to clarify, are you asking what are my main priorities or how am I going to make sure that they actually happen?
Your action plans for putting these ideas into place.
Well, sorry, I kind of don't really understand that.
So we talked about accountability, overhead things, Feds isn't relevant, but how are we going to make this relevant? Like, do you have a plan or like timeline? So I guess priorities, you can say that.
Yeah, my priorities are student engagement. I think I got a lot of criticism saying that, oh, my platform is incomplete or it's very, like, it doesn't have too many points. But I think that is because my main priority, and I think my top priority, is just student engagement. That's what I want. I'm not going to focus on anything else. Well, I will, but my top priority is just student involvement. That's why my platform is so short. And I feel like that's the most achievable thing. That's what Feds needs the most. That's why my platform is really short. So yeah, to follow up on that, what are your top priorities?
So I made sure that most of, how much time do I have?
Time's up.
Never mind.
Okay, we're going to throw a little bit of a curveball here and have, 30 seconds for closing comment. Terribly sorry, I keep forgetting about that.
So for my closing statement, since I'm the last person, I'll take that as a chance to just let you guys know our team feels like they're the best fit for these positions. I really want you to engage with us, come talk to us, find out more about our visions and platforms, and yeah, don't forget to vote green. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a couple of quick audience questions. So the candidates will have 30 seconds each to respond to each of the audience questions. So, Adam, select. Okay. Does anyone have a question from the audience?
I should have checked this first. Yeah.
Any questions for the president of the student union? Yes, we have one in the front there.
Okay.
All right, so there seems to be an interest within the candidates here to allow societies to vote for Fed's elections instead of students. And one of the problems that you were discussing about is the fact that it would put stress on societies. Wouldn't you say that the main problem is the fact that it wouldn't be an accurate representation of the student body instead of putting the stress on society?
Just sorry, what was the last part? To set up.
Basically, what I would like to ask you guys is, isn't it a much greater problem that allowing societies to vote in Fed's elections, it would cause an inaccuracy of the representation of the student body instead of.
Okay, I feel like I should answer
Sorry,
that.
we're going to have an order of Danielle, Jesse, Mo.
So we're talking about electing counselors from societies, correct? I'm asking you. Okay. So that wasn't a personal view, so I didn't mention that. So, okay, then I probably won't answer this.
I just want to make it clear that I don't want the societies to elect the councillors. I just want them to have the opportunity to run the elections because they're more engaged with their student body and will know how to better engage them for the elections. I still want the faculty as a whole to elect their councillors.
So I think this question is more relevant to me because I was the one that brought that point up. Basically, what I meant is, as you know, counselors represent faculties. So it's only fair that faculties appoint the counselors, right? So what I meant is by involving societies to elect those counselors, it would be they could choose the best fit to who they want to represent them in the council.
Thank you for the question. We'll take one more question from the audience. Does anybody else have a question? Yes, over here. I feel like an auctioneer over here.
I'm going to give Jesse a chance to address something that I'm sure like a lot of people are wondering, as I've seen on the websites and stuff. Anytime you talk about board of directors, your main point seems to be that their purpose is to be the watchdog over the executive. And I think a lot of people have this opinion of you that after you lost presidential candidacy last year, you went on board of directors and just tried to impede everything that the executives did. Would you like to address this at all?
Okay, so the order for that is going to be Danielle, Mo, then Jesse.
Okay.
Sorry, just being fair from what the other order was.
Great question, Chris. Thank you.
Is it my turn? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like it's inappropriate to bash a candidate in front of everyone, so I do not want to comment on that.
Thanks, Mo. Thank you very much for that. Chris, I don't think that's what I've done. I've worked hard to try and make sure that the board is just always overseeing and asking difficult questions. The executive have accomplished a lot this year. They've gone sustainability progress. They've gone the SLC reno finished. They've seen Adam's made huge progress on like the ancillary fees policies. And like, I think the board is just there to kind of oversee the exec, and I've tried my best to make sure that difficult questions are asked because that's what I would want if I was sitting in their seats. Yeah.
Thank you very much for answering the question. So the presidential debate and period is over. Thank you very much, candidates, and best of luck in the upcoming elections. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then from there we're moving on towards the VPOF candidates. Congratulations, you've done the hard part.
Can we take our waters with us?